Let's get it on tonight. Get it on tonight. Oh, if it feels alright. Let's get it on tonight. Get it on tonight. Let's get it on tonight. Get it on tonight. Let's get it on tonight. Get it on tonight. Get it on tonight. If it feels alright. Get it on tonight. Let's get it on tonight. Let's get it on tonight. Let's get it on tonight. Get it on tonight. Let's get it on tonight. Yeah. Kapura shokcheba, kapura shochego. Alles bonatisi, alles bonatiso. This is what tradition. Yakasama song. Waka will feel good. Kenyatta cafe mo juice. Kako, one by one. Tuninganisha kwa 2 by 2. Tunaneleta kwa 4 by 4. Tukachapule di 8 to 8. Dini na maketi. Man na maposisi. Wasa mapoya piti. Kesho moteli sheti. Wanna feel good. No matter taufiko ni mayo mafiku. No issues. Champagne tate na kuchetiri mbali man. Taxi na dikale tiri moringa. Tango fiyo ngota limonika. Hesa so nale toli minika. Hesa sa yali monika. Oma vibe mo festive desen. Hamondiri na many hexagon. Usetano may massacre. Usetano uri kaponche. Shichana kusa Pablo. Kapune okololo mavukule. Fikune fiku oli dule neno atmosphere ili wonderful. Okwenye takwe kwa mapenda fule. Au jotono mapunda fule. December tuno kuchapure. Koromo nangune ngonde. Hanuwa mocha kungu WhatsApp with it. Na tuwale kuleta mama chap with it. Chani wale kwa kukute. Next year same time as you to with a cake. Samaya fiki, odula tameke kuluka, omwidi taukala wasisa, ungala tabati mboloma, tuwala totalu booty shots, avende pamenu crop tops, wamavunji la vamupoka dots, wamavavala vamutoka toto. Get it on tonight. Get it on tonight. Uvanze kwetu, wengine kwetu, uvanze wengine shima mtima waje nikufise wewe. I just wanna love, wanna love, wanna love, wanna love, wanna love. I just wanna love, wanna love, wanna love, wanna love, wanna love. I just wanna love, wanna love, wanna love, wanna love, wanna love. I just wanna love, wanna love, wanna love, wanna love, wanna love. The way you are, I know she can queen and don't do no quick for 2 minutes, sooner or later. Nyala kumana pongo viri viri, nyala kukulo mwelo shiri shiri. Kwadi na shinda kunyungo mbili mbili baby. Sasa kesho people you know pela yo panado fiti. Anuliko mbinga lifiyo city. Eje indesa iti. Sato tomo nikalela uli pretty. Uvanze kwetu, wengine kwetu. Uvanze it's calling for you, girl. Wanna give you my all and get you when you fall. But every time when I push, they smoke in the air like kush. Cause you told me we could get away. Still alone just like any other day. Alaname, from my thick and thin, baby. Bimbo shamala bike kupe. Oh, you need to majawe. Upanze kwetu, I just wanna love. Wengine kwetu, upanze. We can let shit go Shikusakonge, akina mate until the day Tokazaro fei, kesho shimo shipungesha money kilo way. But for now, hey, I slay queen, I slay, hey. Ulimo hotel for my foot Kobe, moving like a goddamn money come and you sway. Neta kolo silicone pulling off a nigga, hey. Ulikoni popcorn letting in dicky. Metina la Gucci, Louis no Versace. Ini my share you are that you want get it. Me, I'm just checking, sitting and hoping that you come back to me when we stop fighting. Wanna love, wanna love, wanna love, wanna love. I just wanna love, wanna love, wanna love, wanna love, wanna love. I just wanna love, wanna love, wanna love, wanna love, wanna love. I just wanna love, wanna love, wanna love, wanna love, wanna love. We can attend wanna love, wanna love, wanna love. We can get shit. My moves are catchy, and you never have to worry about the call line. You're dealing with daddy. Get comfortable, baby, you hold my. There won't be side chick. I'm the one with the hangover. You're the one that should come over. Baby, would you roll over? Want you close, want you all over. I'm the one with the hangover. You're the one that should come over. Baby, would you roll over? Want you close, want you all over. Me when you come close, I wanna touch your body, your love. When the sun's up, we be hangover. Then it's all over. Baby, when you come close, wanna touch your body all over. When the sun's up, we be hangover. Then it's all over. Come steady now your hangover. Otherwise I know your hangover. Eating all of your hangover. Then through now your hangover. Come steady now your hangover. Otherwise I know your hangover. Eating all of your hangover. Then through now your hangover. Baby boy can I come over?
sober. Then I sit on that beat, make it feel over. I want you to do those things. Take a sip of Hennessy. I want you to do those things. Everything I do is a courtesy. Baby boy, can I come over? I don't think I will come sober. I'm getting that day for the hangover. Then I sit on that beat, make it feel over.
Baby, won't you come close? I wanna touch your body, your love. When the sun's up, we be hangover. Then it's all over. Baby, won't you come close? Wanna touch your body, your love. When the sun's up, we be hangover. Then it's all over. Come carry now your hangover. Otherwise, I know hangover. Give me a little hangover. Then you now your hangover. Come carry now your hangover. Otherwise, I know your hangover. Give me a little hangover. Then you now your hangover.
Quiero comerte viva, que tú sabes que soy hueco. Bailando suave que me pongo violento. Aspire quiere que sea su dueño. Y sea cubana como tú consecuente. Boxo guapita. You can tell she no good mover. Very well disappear with the bad boys. Caramel on the Alabama. Every day.
Baby, won't you come close? I wanna touch your body, your love. When the sun's up, we be hangover. Then it's all over. Baby, when you come close, wanna touch your body, your love. When the sun's up, we be hangover. Then it's all over. Don't tell me that you're hangover. Otherwise, I know you're hangover. Give me a little hangover. Then you know you're hangover. Don't tell me that you're hangover. Otherwise, I know you're hangover. Give me a little hangover. Then you know you're hangover.
Don't get it one more.
Don't tell me that you're hangover. Otherwise, I know you're hangover. Give me a little hangover. Then you know you're hangover.
Batalange positive, facciamo illuminati. Dando bunduki, tivo kato no popula. Didakala kenge pedwe, boss. Start doing it no way. See, my job is to make you sway. See, my love is to make you dance. See, my job is to make you lose control. You never have control. See, my job is to make you sway. See, my love is to make you dance. See, my job is to make you lose control. You never have control. That's what I, that's what, that's what, that's what I, that's what, that's what, that's what I, that's what, that's what, that's what, that's what I, that's what I'm so good, man. That's what, that's what I, that's what, that's what, that's what, that's what I, that's what I never lose control. That's what, that's what I, that's what, that's what, that's what, that's what I, that's what I'm so good, man. Underneath that lako pila de color. So go back up my body, Oshingai hatu molora. Ashikaza kwa choku no swega, na shotu no sheda, unashi kukuleta. may hakwite kwa anganita haluka na manga kalunga haluka no hasada paifonda tulako ulika shiri monja doso twala kupoloma ulika shiri monja doso twala kupoloma that's what 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 I'm so good that's what 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 I never lost control that's what 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 I'm so good I never lose control. I'm so good, man.
Two hands on the Glock like a I'm new man on out. Feeling like a race, on a race. So I'm surfing our waves. Get your bang in the floor.
So I'm your speaker for today. You don't sound excited. I'm your speaker for today. Ne? Good afternoon, MTC staff. No, guys, no. I mean, we have a guest today who's not only 26 years old, he's a PhD holder who graduated with our acting CEO, Dr. Like Rastus. So let's hypen up the mood, man. Let's start over. Good afternoon, MTC staff. Just say way better. So my name is Elizabeth Masamba from Corporate Affairs. I'll be hosting you today. Our guest speaker for today calls himself a media veteran. So when you hear a veteran, you actually think of somebody who has worked for a very long time, who's probably 55 years old or 60 years old, getting pension money. However, he calls himself a media veteran who has worked in radio, television, advertising, and on stage. He's a digital strategist, copywriter, keynote speaker, trainer, and social media practitioner. So before I call him up on stage, it's always easier to connect with somebody when you get to know their interests, right? So Dr. Mohammed Shetu here, his keenest interests include social media strategy, design principles, digital transformation, and entrepreneurship, but not women. Keenest interest, no women. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Mohammed Shetu on stage.
Is this thing on? Oh, yeah. It's always weird when people introduce me to other people. And when Elizabeth was up here just now, I was thinking to myself, can you imagine being in a relationship with her? Like, can you just imagine being in a relationship with Elizabeth right now? Whatever helps you sleep at night. It's funny you should mention the women part, because last night before I came on here, I actually posted on my WhatsApp status and I told people I was going to be presenting at MTC today, and I asked them to guess what the 3 W's were. And the first word that everybody always mentioned was women. And guys, look, I know that the letters H, O, and E are in my first name, but please, right? Some people said women, wine, whiskey. Someone said weed. I said, yo, they said inspire to aspire, not expire. Now, I was invited to come and motivate and inspire, but before I continue, if there's anybody here, is anybody here familiar with the Red Table Talk? Red Table Talk. Okay, so we've got a bunch of people who are familiar with it. Now, those of you who haven't watched it, the Red Table Talk is a show on Facebook by Will Smith and Jada Smith and the entire Smith family, they and their kids. And what they do is they have conversations about the things that other people don't talk about, right? The things that we don't really talk about at home in our families. And I thought that's kind of the format that I want to take today. I want to have a conversation with you guys. So there won't be any of that, you can do it. No, there won't be any of that stuff. What I will be doing is giving you what I call reminders. Reminders about things that we all know, but that we may have forgotten down the line. So the 3 W's. Now, when I was younger, just to give you a little bit of background, my dad's a professor, so he always had books in the house. There were shelves all over the place, and I grew up reading quite a lot. And when I was younger, the one thing I always wanted to be was 18. I always wanted to be 18 years old. Because from what I understood, when you were 18, the world had to treat you like an adult. And as an adult, you could do whatever you want. You could go wherever you wanted. You didn't have to do homework. You didn't have to eat your vegetables. And then I turned 18 and I realized I played myself. And I think I speak for everybody here when I say we all played ourselves. Nah, adulting is not easy, ladies and gentlemen. And when I was 18, I did a whole lot of dumb stuff. We all do dumb stuff when we're young. We think we have all the time in the world. And so we drive without our seatbelts. We take chances with our life. We drink and we smoke excessively because you can bounce back the next day. There's hangovers all the time, all over the place. Right? We go to clubs. We don't care. And it was around this time that I came across a quote that would impact me quite a lot. And that quote is by George Bernard Shaw. And it says, youth is wasted on the young. Youth is wasted on the young. The French have a different way of saying it. They say that if only youth knew, and if only old age could. Because the truth is, when we're young, we think we're going to live forever. Right? And we make all sorts of dumb decisions, and we take chances with our lives. And by the time you figure life out in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, because that was another thing I had to unlearn. I thought that when you turn 18, you would have life figured out. And then I turned 18 and I realized you don't know jack. There are people who are in their 30s right now. Some of you are hitting 40 and you still don't have life figured out, which is scary for us who are younger. So you won't have life figured out until it's too late. And by that time, you don't have the time or the energy to fully enjoy the wisdom that you've garnered. And when I first heard this quote, I said to myself, what that means is that if you could hack the secrets of human success, if you could reverse engineer how life is supposed to work, then maybe you could beat the rest of the crowd, the rest of the pack. It reminded me of another quote that I saw, which says that the sun shone, having no alternative or nothing new. That's by Samuel Beckett. The sun shone, having no alternative or nothing new. And all that means is there's nothing new under the sun. There is no emotion you've ever experienced that has not been experienced before. There is no pain that has never been felt. There is no happiness that has never been felt. There is no pleasure that has never been indulged. Right? Everything you are going through right now, it has happened already to someone before. Which means that there are certain truths in life, things that are eternal. They were true 500 years ago, they're true today, and they'll be true 500 years from now. Assuming we don't blow ourselves up, World War IV or something like that. Right? So my job today is really just to sort of distill 3 aspects of life that I feel we sometimes forget about, but that we would do well to remember. Life is complex, it's grand, it's long, there's a lot of moving parts to it. I can't go through all of it, and I definitely won't pretend I have all the answers, but I do want to speak on 3 things. I want to have a conversation. I mentioned Red Table Talk earlier, and one of the aspects of that show that I really love is that they create a safe space for people to talk about stuff. So this is what I assume today is. It's a safe space. I might ask you some questions. My job today is to have you leave here and think about certain stuff. I'm not going to pretend to give you any answers, but just to make you think about certain stuff. And the three things that I'm going to talk about, it's not women, it's not wine, it's not weed or whiskey or Wi-Fi. It's three things. It's wealth, wellness, and wisdom. Wealth, wellness, and wisdom. Three things that we base our lives around, but that a lot of us feel lost most of the time about. So let's start with wealth. Now, by show of hands, who here who here has had a negative bank balance over the past 12 months at any point? Yo, I'm happy you guys are honest about that. Do you know that one bad year? Everybody has that one bad year where they took a hit financially and they will never forget it for as long as they live. You guys have that year? Some of you are going through that year right now. That one bad year for me was 2017. In 2017, I wasn't getting much work. And one day I woke up to a text message from the bank that the debit order for rent had bounced. I'm sure a lot of you here know what that feels like. The debit order for the rent payment had bounced. And I realized I actually had a negative bank balance in my account. Now, mind you, before that day, I had built up my entire persona, my entire self-worth on how much I had in the bank. So the way the formula worked in my head, the more money I had, the more worthy I was as a human being. And the less I had, the less worthy I was. And so to wake up and find out that you've got negative bank balance, it's like I wasn't even human. And I'll never forget that the first feeling that hit me was a wave of depression. It took me for a few minutes. I sat frozen in my chair, trying to understand how I had gotten to that point in my life. After the depression came, there was disappointment. Disappointment in myself, disappointment that I'd allowed myself to get to that point. I thought this was the end. This is it. I'm never going to bounce back from this. And it hits you worse in our society when you're a man. Because as a man, you're told that you need to provide. You must always provide. All the payments, all the bills, you must shoulder them. And so when you don't have money as a man, it does something to your confidence. Even as a woman, you guys know that being broke does something to you. It damages you a little bit. Your self-confidence drops. You're feeling depressed all the time. You're feeling angry for no reason all the time. For no reason. When you're at the restaurant and you're paying for your meal and you tell them to bring the swipe machine and you give them the card, you're looking at her because you want her to understand that the most important thing you need from her right now is silence. She must whisper. Whatever the result of that swipe is, she must whisper it. The first thing that usually suffers when you hit that low point in your financial journey is your relationships. That's the first thing that usually suffers. Your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your parents, your kids. People around you don't understand why you are the way you are, but they don't get it. Some of you women right now, you're dating men who have become moody all of a sudden. Yeah? They're just moody all the time, stressed all the time. You can tell something is eating them. My sister, check that bank balance. Maybe it's the money. And I didn't need to feel this way because, as I mentioned earlier on, there's a lot of things that we know inherently, intuitively. We just forget it. And I say this because when I was a kid, in my late teens, my father walked in one day with this book, The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. I highly recommend you get this book. I've only been able to find one copy in the bookshops of this country over the past couple of years. The Richest Man in Babylon. This book will change your life. It was in this book that I learned such gems, such as pay yourself first. Whenever you make any money, pay yourself first. Take 10% of whatever it is you earn and put that aside. That's you paying yourself, right? Before the bank takes the money, before the landlord takes the money, before your children's school takes the school fees, before the money goes towards groceries, before Foschini and Edgar's and Woolworths take their cut, before West Bank takes its cut, pay yourself first. I promise you, you won't feel the difference. But that 10%, that's what you have to grow your wealth with. Live within your means. That was something else I learned from this book. This was like my father's personal anthem. He used to drum it into us as kids. Live within your means. If you make $100, try and spend 90. Notice I didn't say 100. Try and spend 90. Because there must always be something left over. Here's something for you to think about. If you lost your job today, do you have enough money to tide you over for the next 6 months? Check how everybody's just avoiding eye contact. Think about it. Do you have enough money to tide you over for the next 6 months? Because if you don't, then you need to do something about it. You're not paying yourself enough first. Something else I learned from this was invest only in things that you know. One thing I've noticed a lot is we tend to get into what are called Me Too businesses. My friend does nails. Me too. I've got a friend who's a photographer. Me too. She does hair. She sells clothes from China. Me too. If you're running a Me Too business, the easiest way to know if you're running a Me Too business is to ask yourself, if your business shut down today, who is going to be inconvenienced? Who is going to miss the presence of the service or product you're offering? Because if the answer is nobody, then you're running a Me Too business. Another profound thing I learned from this book was it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. Right? If your salary is $20,000 a month, what you keep after you've paid for rent and food and fees and debit orders and debts and loans, that's what you actually made that month. If you want to start with the concept of wealth building, you need to first find out what it is you keep every month. That's the most important number. Everything else is superficial. What do you keep every month? What do you take home? On the 16th, on the 15th of the month, what is in your bank balance? What is left? That's what you keep. And anything related to wealth building will start with that figure. Another thing this book taught me was only invest with people who've actually run the race that they're trying to sell you on. So I want you guys to tell me if you know this national anthem, right? So here's how it goes. Okay, so you buy a starter pack for 1.5, né? And then you get 2 people under you, and then those 2 people will sell to 2 other people, and then the money comes. Are you guys familiar with that anthem? It's a very popular anthem in this country, especially. And the person who will be trying to sell you that starter pack, they're dressed like they need a starter pack. Someone is trying to tell you they're going to make you a millionaire. The first question you should ask them is, where are your millions? And they always sell you with fantastic things. You will win a trip, school fees for your children, a house and a car. Okay, but you are driving a Corolla. Who's it? Wealth building boils down to 2 things. It's either you're working for your money or your money is working for you. Clar. You're either working for your money or your money is working for you. If you still need to wake up in the morning and go to work and brave that nasty 7 o'clock traffic and sit in an office for 8, 9 hours, and you get home at 6 or 7 and you're tired and you eat and you shower and you go to bed and you wake up the next morning to do it all over again, you are working for your money. You still haven't attained financial freedom. Your goal, if you want to build wealth, is to get to a point where your money is working for you, where you don't need to be in the room for you to earn money. There's many different ways you can do that. I'm not going to get into that today. But I just want you to think about that. Are you working for your money, or is your money working for you? And the reason I bring up wealth is because these are the things that are never taught in our homes. These are not conversations, especially black families. These are not conversations that our parents have with us, that our grandparents have with us. In black families, a lot of what is talked about is wealth consumption. Nobody teaches you about wealth creation. You're told that you should buy a house, you should buy a car, you should buy nice clothes to impress your friends, you should buy nice furniture from Home Corp because what will the neighbors say? It's all about consumption, conspicuous consumption. It's all about impressing people who don't know you or care enough about you. They'll come to your house, they'll marvel at your furniture, and they'll leave. But at the end of the day, when that text message comes in from the bank, it's you who has to deal with it. And because our families don't talk to us about these things, we don't have any lessons to pass on to our kids. It's not in our vernacular, it's not in our language. Let me ask you another question. Who here speaks Oshwambo? You speak Oshwambo? Tim. But you do. So now let me ask you a question, Tim. How do you say dividend in Oshwambo? Or dividenda? What is a unit trust in Oshierero? Nice. How do you say shareholder in Rukwangali? Or Silozi? Or Setswana? The point I'm trying to make is that because these words don't even exist in our language, it's very hard for us to have conversations about them, especially with our kids. Something else people don't teach you about is black tax. I see people nodding their heads. You all are familiar with that, ain't you? Black tax. Where you can't fund your future because you're constantly paying for the present and paying for the past. You can't plan for your financial freedom because that auntie who carried you one time when you were 5 years old and put you down, as soon as she hears you've got a job, all of a sudden, electricity needs to be bought. That's it, Hasten. Some niece or nephew you've never seen before needs money to buy shoes or books. Now, guys, I don't know what your financial situation is, but please don't be a burden on your kids. Let's talk about wellness. By show of hands, how many people here have barely had 5 hours of sleep consistently this past week? Be honest with yourself. Who here is struggling to get enough sleep lately? Sleep. One of the biggest lessons I learned as I was growing up was that it doesn't matter how hard you work, if you're not resting, it's all for naught. It will all go to waste, all of it. There was a time when I was trying to get rid of my pregnancy. Not pregnancy, pregnancy. This kapunda here. I was trying to get rid of it, and I was speaking to a friend of mine who was a personal trainer. And he was asking me what my schedule would look like, and I told him I wanted to go to the gym every single day. And he told me, not only are you not going to get the muscles you're looking for, you're actually going to burn the progress that you're making. He said that the progress you're seeking comes when you're asleep. The growth you're looking for comes when you're asleep. That's when your body has the time to repair your muscles and the tissues and all that stuff. Sleep is such an important aspect of our lives, but we always assume it's something that we can do without. You've seen it on social media. Team no sleep. Hashtag 5 a.m. club. While you are sleeping, we are hustling. If you're not careful, you will be promoted from team no sleep to team burnout. Do you guys know what burnout is? Do you know someone who has gone through burnout? Burnout is what happens when you keep ignoring the message from your body to slow down and take a break. Burnout will be the reason you're forced to take leave from work or from your business because you didn't pay attention when your body was telling you, I need to rest. And we do that a lot. It's not just with sleep. As human beings, we have this tendency to take our problems and put it in a dark room with no light, with no ventilation, and we close the door and we throw away the key and we say, okay, I've solved the problem now. We do that with our sleep, with our work, with our finances, but we also do that with our physical and mental health. We ignore the signs that our body is giving us to slow down and take a break. That back pain you've been feeling, the one you're ignoring. Ne, Licky. That sharp pain in your chest that comes in every once in a while that you've been ignoring. Your knee joints, you can tell they're not the same anymore, but you won't go to see a doctor because you assume you're a superman or a superwoman and you can power through it. You've been feeling tired lately, you can't explain it. That sore you've just found out on your private part. These are the things we don't talk about. Something is off, something is wrong. You've been feeling depressed lately. You're not sure what it is. You haven't gone to see a professional yet. You haven't spoken to anybody about it. Depression, anxiety. How do you say anxiety in Oshuambo? Is there a word for it? How do you say depression, Oshirero? The point I'm trying to make is that these are the things that affect us. These are the things we have to live with, but we don't even have the words to describe them. So how are we going to talk about it if we can't even label them? Your physical and mental health, that's all you have. Put the money aside, put the people aside, put the friends aside, put your work aside. Your physical and mental health is the only thing that you have control over. And it goes beyond sleep, it goes beyond how we feel in our bodies, how we feel in our minds. It also goes towards our diets, our attitudes to food. We have this thing where if you go to a wedding and there's a buffet, you feel the need to pack your plate. I know I'm not alone. Don't lie. You have not eaten until there's 3 pieces of boerewors, 4 chicken wings, 2 slabs of beef, yeah, and 2 cool drinks, plus a tafel. And after you are done and you can't move and your belt is crying because your belly is pushing it forward, you still stand up and you go and eat cake, ice cream, muffins, cookies. You guys know Hermine Alago? Anybody know her here? For those of you who don't know Hermine Alago, she had a weight loss journey. She weighed a lot. And over time, she worked hard to bring her weight down. It's a fascinating story. I really recommend you to look her up, Hermine Elago. And I was speaking to her the other day. We were sitting at Coffee Addicts, and she told me something profound. And she said that carbs are not the problem. Fat is not the problem. sugar, alcohol. Those are not the problem. The problem is your attitude to food. The problem is you thinking that you can only make a change if you find something external to blame. It can't be that you eat too much. It's I eat too much gluten. I eat too much bread. Some of you have cut out bread from your diet because you think carbs are the problem. You don't eat carbs before you go to bed at night because you read that on a blog somewhere. Carbs are not the issue. My father used to say, everything in moderation. Everything. You want to drink alcohol, go ham, but in moderation. One glass is fine. One shot at the club, it's okay. You don't need to prove that you can still take booze because the hangover the next morning doesn't care about you. It doesn't care that you've got a meeting at 7:30 in the morning. That hangover will humble you. Everything in moderation. And it's not just us, it's the way our cultures are set up. I talk to some Vambo girls sometimes, and they tell me that in some Vambo cultures or subcultures, if your husband is skinny, it means you are not doing your job. Am I lying? I'm not. If you're not feeding your husband, the traditional ones, if you're not feeding your husband, the aunties will say, you are embarrassing us. And so you grow up, and when you cook and you dish out for your husband, you pack his plate because you feel the man must eat. Pap, chicken, beef, boerewors, eggs, cheese. You just pack his plate. And you think you're showing him love, but you're killing him one dish at a time. The best way to show someone you love that you actually want to see them healthy is to help them stay in shape and watch how they eat and talk about their diet. And this goes both ways, the men as well. Do you have these conversations with your partners, with your mom, with your dad, with your brother? You see what they're doing, but you keep quiet. They've got a poor attitude to food, but we don't talk about it because these are things that are just buried. Another funny one I've heard is this is from Herro guys now. Herro guys will tell you, I'm a real man. I only eat beef. Chicken is not meat. I only eat beef because that's what the real men eat. Let me tell you something. You know what else is real? Gout. Gout. Gout is real. Some of your uncles are suffering from joint pains, gout, but they're real men, most. Every morning when you are serving yourself coffee and you are dishing 5 tablespoons of sugar inside, you've got an aunt who's suffering from diabetes. You know this. But maybe you just need a reminder. Everything in moderation. You can be a real man and enjoy all the food that you want to eat and die at 55 to the shock and dismay of your family, or you can actually live long enough to see your children and great grandchildren. That's a belief, no? Let's move on. Let's talk about wisdom. Now, as Elizabeth mentioned to you earlier on, emphatically, with the emphasis, I'm 27 years old. My birthday was in August, on the 5th. Yeah? And at 27 years old, I'm well aware of the fact that there are certain things I'm yet to learn. There are certain things I'm yet to experience. A lot of you who are here right now, you're much older than me. You've seen things in life. You've experienced things. You've met people who've done you wrong, who've done you right. And there it goes. Wonderful. When it comes to wisdom, I can only speak on what I know, right? And what I've found out in the short time I've been on this planet is that wisdom is a function of mainly two things. It's firstly humility. Humility, understanding that you don't know, recognizing that what you know is so small, so tiny, so infinitesimal that it means nothing in the grand scheme of things. When I was younger, I used to think that someone who has a PhD must be super smart, experts. They know everything. I mean, if you're a PhD, damn, what don't you know? And then I got my PhD and I realized there's even more I don't know. I realized that the difference between a PhD holder and you is simply that the PhD holder has been wrong more times than you have. That's all it is. They've been wrong more times than you have, and they've had the humility to seek correction. And that comes down to the second thing, the second aspect of wisdom, which is curiosity. Intelligence is largely a function of curiosity and perseverance. But curiosity, you need to want to know more. I give you an example. Some of you have 3-year-old, 4-year-old kids at home, either your siblings, a niece, a nephew, a younger brother, a son, a daughter. And what is it that children do all the time? They ask questions. Oh, they don't shut up. Mommy, what is this? Daddy, what is that? And they want to touch everything, and they want to climb on everything, and they want to put everything in their mouth. But one thing that we do as parents, as adults, is we choke that curiosity out of them. When your child is asking you questions, when they have that curiosity burning in them as kids, what do? Hey, you're talking too much. Keep quiet. Hey, stop bothering me. I'm tired. And that child will grow up knowing that there's no point asking questions because it's not going to get answers. What are you doing to the kids in your life? How are you feeding their curiosity? But most importantly, how are you feeding yours? When a child asks you a question that you don't understand, are you humble enough to recognize that if you don't know, this is a chance for you to learn so that the both of you can learn something new at the same time? It's excellent bonding. Many of us went through school and we hated it. Not because school sucks, but because we never saw the point of it. You thought you were bad at math, or you were bad at English, or you sucked at history, or you would never get Afrikaans. It's not because you were inherently bad at it, it's just because nobody ever fed your curiosity. You had a teacher who didn't see the best in you. And as I've grown older, I've then come up with two life philosophies. I love life philosophies. The first one is be interesting. When I say be interesting, what I mean is do stuff you've never done before. Expose yourself to new things. Go places you've never gone before. We're in September now, December is coming up. A lot of you will go to the same place you go to every year. Every year. If it's not Swakop, if it's not Walvish, if it's not Cape Town, it's Wales. Bambuland. Have you ever been to Etosha? Have you ever been to Khobabis? Have you ever been to Ruakana? Have you ever stepped beyond the borders and gone to Angola or Botswana or South Africa? Have you ever gone out of your comfort zone? If I hand you a camera right now, is your first response going to be, I don't know how to shoot? Or is it going to be, let me try? Some of you have Netflix, you've been watching the same type of shows and movies for the past year. Have you tried something new? You know everything about every player in the FA League. Have you ever watched a documentary on crime? Those are my favorite. Crime and investigation. It worries me that the ladies are shaking their head. Try something new. Be interesting. Because when you expose yourself to new things, that gives you something to talk about. Even if you fail at least you have a story. Did you guys know we have a bowling center in this city? How many of you have actually gone there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can count on one hand. There are more than 30 of you here, and only 5 of you have gone bowling. There's a rock climbing place by my room mall. Have you ever been there? Did you know it existed? You did? Okay. It's very nice. It is. When you go out on a date with someone, where do you take them? To dinner, to the cinema. Do you guys realize how boring a cinema date is? Do you know what that is? You're sitting next to someone for 2 hours not talking. Come, let me get to know you. Then you go watch a movie for 2 hours. It's a cost issue. Tuesday. Hey, half price. That's same. Cheapskates. All over. You can watch movies at your house. Even going out for dinner. There's food in your fridge. Okay, some of you. The point I'm trying to make is do something different. Even something as simple as a picnic. Parliament Gardens. Oh, you don't want? You're too bougie for that, huh? You go? No, you can now. Yeah, it's open. You see, you didn't know because you're not interested. And that's my next point. Be interested. Be interested. Some of you have been working with the people you're sitting next to for months. And if there was ever a police case and the police came to you and they said, we need as much information as you have on this person, you wouldn't be able to describe them. You don't know where they stay. You don't know whether they're in a relationship or not, whether they're married, whether they have kids, where they schooled, where they come from, what they like, what they don't like, because you are inherently not interested. I tell you a secret, the quickest way to make friends and get someone to like you is to be interested. Ask them questions. If you are sitting right now to someone you are not familiar with, you should be able to leave this place and know at least 3 facts about them that you didn't before. Be interested. Read stuff. Watch stuff. Now, to end off this, we've talked a lot about a lot of things. We've gone through wealth, the basic reminders: live within your means, pay yourself first, invest in what you know. It's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. We've talked about wellness. Sleep more. Sit less. Our bodies were designed to move. If there's a problem with your body will tell you you need to listen to your body. If there is a pain, if there is an ache, if there is an emotion you can't seem to shake off, get help. Preserve your health because that's the only thing you have. We've looked at wisdom, curiosity, humility, perseverance, and interest. Do something new you've never done before. Go somewhere new you've never been before. Talk to someone you've never talked to before. Now, I haven't mentioned family, partially because I'm still trying to figure that one out myself. So it would be remiss of me to sit here and pretend I know everything about family. I do know it's one of the most important things in life. I haven't touched on friendship. You know, they've done studies that show that past a certain age, somewhere there in your 50s, past a certain age, the single biggest determinant of how long you will live and the quality of your life depends on the friendships that you have at that point. Which means diet aside, exercise aside, money aside, the single biggest determinant of how long you will live and how well you will enjoy that life is the friendships you make in your life. But friendships begin with you being interested in other people. As I mentioned earlier on, my goal wasn't to give you guys any answers because all of us are different and we all have separate lives and we've all taken different paths and trajectories. But I do hope that I've at least made you think about certain things. That you'll go home today and you'll ponder upon these things and maybe make a change in your life. Thank you guys for coming today.
Dr. Mo, come back on stage.
This is what I was talking about, being in a relationship with this woman. Who's it?
Well, there are 3 things that I've learned from the 3 W's of life. Wealth, I need to start paying myself, and I'll pay myself. Oh, guys, I'll pay myself.
And me also, ne?
Wellness. John, this is for you. So if I'm aching here, my body is telling me something. I need to rest. He's a doctor. Just in case. And wisdom. We need to explore more. My friends, you guys are in trouble, but anywho, do any of you have questions for our doctor here, who's 26 years old and a half?
27. Oh my God, Liz.
Maybe. Can't believe everything you hear. Any questions? Hold on.
No, that's for everybody else to hear.
Everybody can hear Charlene. I'd like to understand in what you specialized your doctorate in, please.
Informatics, so social media strategy and analytics for Namibian businesses.
English, please.
But that was English. That's a very good question. How do you say social media in Oshwambo?
Social media.
Or Facebook, huh?
Any other question? Nothing? Going once? Thank you guys for coming. This was Dr. Mohammed Shetu. Another round of applause for him, please. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We have snacks behind. Please help yourselves. Thank you.